Hello, my tarot friends. I have thought of a new tag and I called it Tarot Through the Plants. It popped into my mind when I was studying the Herbcrafter tarot. If you have this deck, you'll know that for every card meaning, a plant is assigned to it based on its medical purposes, energy, and the way it interacts with us and how we interact with the plant. So what I have done is, I chose 22 plants that hold the specific energies and messages that come through in the Herbcrafter tarot, and then I connected them to specific decks from my tarot family. I chose the plants randomly as my gut led me. There are a lot of the plants from minors, but also from the majors. Now I need to point out that these specific plants may carry a different energy or messages in some other decks, or even in your personal opinion. For each plant I will show the card from the Herbcrafter tarot, and then the deck I feel expresses its energy or its messages throughout. If you find yourself tagged in the description box below, I'll be really happy to see your take on this tag, but if you don't have time or you don't vibe with it, that's fine as well to me. So let's just dive in, shall we? So the first plant that I chose, or that came to me, was lavender. And lavender in Herbcrafter tarot represents 4 of air. And the lavender represents a deck that you use for meditation, that brings you in that peaceful, meditative state of mind. For that, I chose the Shimmering Veil Tarot. The Shimmering Veil Tarot is a perfect deck for me for meditation, because every card is drawn in a way where you could literally sit with it for hours and just absorb its energy and jump into each picture. Keep it in your third eye and then ask the divine what messages should come through this picture to you. Or maybe just find a card that calms your mind or that brings you peace or that stillness feeling, and keep it in your mind's eye whilst you meditate. I meditated on quite a few of these paintings and it was quite an incredible experience, I have to say. Like the messages, the subtle messages would come through, different messages that the general, meaning of the card would be. For example, I meditated with a star, and the message that came through for me was that the star is actually the sun, that we are our own sun, we are our own star. We have to find that star within us. There is nothing on the outside that is going to lead us to that place that we long to be, but that we need to do it ourselves. This is such a powerful card, isn't it, the sun? That the healing or whatever we long to comes from within. So this is the deck that I chose for the energy of lavender. The next plant that came to my mind was Calendula. It represents the energy of 3 of fire, and you should choose a deck here that makes your creativity flow. The orange color is connected to the sacral chakra and creativity, the expression of creativity. So the deck that I connect to this is the Japaritsa Tarot. The Japaritsa Tarot is literally a deck that makes me feel this way. Every time I look at the cards, I feel I can be very creative because the deck is so creatively done itself. It makes me open my mind and open all the doors of the way I perceive the world, let's say. With this deck, I feel I just let go and manage to let my mind creatively flow through me, and I would see or say things without using my actual logic or mind or things that I've learned, or maybe if they're in my subconscious they would come through, not with the control of my mind, if that makes any sense. Like I would just let my creative expression literally flow when I'm looking at this deck and trying to gather what it's trying to tell us or the messages. And when you look at it, it's just so creatively done as well. I absolutely love it. The colors, the strokes, the different mediums that were used for it, or media that was used to create this deck. Also, this deck is trimmed, by the way. If you have the original, it has this grey type of borders. But trimmed is a perfect size and it just looks so much better in my opinion. But anyway, this is the deck that I connected to the energy of Calendula. The next flower that I thought of was the sunflower, and the sunflower in this deck is connected to the magician. So here you should choose a deck that you use for planting your manifestation seeds. With the sunflower, I really like this idea of the seeds and then seeds falling out of the flower into the ground and them being manifested into life, into new life, into something physical, you know? The seeds of creation, the seeds of planting our seeds, basically. And a deck that I thought of that has this, that I use for actually manifestation, or more when I want to plant seeds, basically, when I want to manifest physical things, is the Druidcraft Tarot. There's something very earthly to this deck. Like, it feels like manifestation to me. I feel like every message is very down to earth, and it helps you understand things in life that are very physical, and it helps you, to me, it just helps you manifest to get to that place that you want to be. Like, it helps you to bring that magician energy to the picture. Does that make any sense? It's just a deck that I feel helps me, it helps me achieve what I want in my life, basically, in a very down-to-earth way. Like the seeds from the sunflower fall down to earth. Does that make sense? I hope it does. But yes, this is the Druidcraft Tarot that, to me, embodies that energy of the sunflower. The next plant that I thought of was Nasturtium, that is connected to 6 of fire in the Herbcrafter Tarot. And here you should choose a deck that helps you celebrate your authentic self. And for this card, for this plant, for this energy, I chose Tarot of the She. I talk about this deck quite a lot on this channel because I absolutely love it, and perhaps because it is the deck that helps me celebrate my authentic self, that helps me bring forward that energy that is actually deep within me, and perhaps I'm not aware of it, but it is a huge part of me. It also has that a lot of that orangey yellow color in it. It works in a way where it brings that energy of yellow through very well, or yellow orangey, let's say, because Nasturtium is that type of flower. And in the Herbcrafter Tarot, it speaks about being bold and being your true self in that card. So this deck definitely helps me do that. It helps me even recognize this strengths, these authentic strengths within me that I might suppress or not be aware of. And I absolutely adore it for that and for many other reasons. But Tarot of the She embodies the energy of Nasturtium very, very well. You know, it celebrates who I am, like the 6 of Wands, you know, the energy or the message of 6 of Wands is actually about that. So, yes, this was Tarot of the She and the energy of Nasturtium. Next plant that I thought of, or in this case, it is a spice. It is cinnamon, and it's connected to the energy of 7 of fire. So for cinnamon, you should choose a deck that makes you remember who you truly are, that makes you connect to your ancestors. As you know, the 7 of fire is all about that strength. It's all about staying strong in adversity of the world, of things are happening to you or around you, that you stay true to yourself. And knowing who you are is very important here. And knowing who you are is knowing where you come from. Therefore, the connection to ancestors. And to me, the deck that represents energy of this so well is the one and only Marielle Tarot. The Marielle Tarot always helps me when I try to work with the energies of my ancestors, of even my previous lifetimes that still influence me. When I'm trying to figure out who I truly am deep down. When I'm trying to get into my roots, if that makes sense, into the roots of why I am like I am, why certain things are happening to me, you know, dealing with my karma, I would say, or just maybe maneuvering through my karma and understanding why I need to go through certain things, and also how to stay strong whilst I'm going through those things. And yeah, I mean, this deck is something else. That's what I'm gonna say. It's just so huge. I feel people who love this deck will understand what I mean when I say that it is so huge. It's just huge. It's big. It's more than just a deck. To me, anyway. It's way more than just that. It extends in all directions. So yes, this is the tarot deck that I chose for the energy of cinnamon. And if we go to our next plant, I chose chamomile. And chamomile is connected to He Have Water, which in this deck is the page of water. And we know that the pages of water are very emotional or can get emotionally distressed quite easily, and they need inspiration and support in order to achieve their tasks, as we can see here. And for the chamomile, you should choose a deck that calms you down when you feel stressed, or calms you down when the emotions arise in you that you feel like you can't control. So for this plant, I chose Tarot for the Great Outdoors. And how funny that the King of Vessels is on top, someone who is in charge of their emotions, who can control and maneuver through their emotions or through whatever life throws at them, like stressful, hard situations, really easily, when we talked about the Page of Cups. Anyways, so this is a deck that makes me feel calm and makes me feel like everything is going to be okay, and I should just breathe and connect to the nature and see life from more colorful, happy, calm, relaxed lenses. Whenever I feel very stressed, I would go to this deck because it just grounds me and makes me take a deep breath and feel like I'm out in the nature, connecting to the beings, to animals, to plants. I would say it is quite positive deck, you know. It is quite calming, positive deck. And that's why I connected to the energy of chamomile, because this is what the chamomile is all about. Isn't that hermit just so amazing? Wow. And I love using this deck so much. When we went to the holidays to my home country, I used this deck all the time, and I really bonded with it because I used it in a setting that this deck reminds me of. So it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. So yeah, this deck definitely holds the energy of the chamomile very beautifully. The next plant that I chose is ginger. And ginger is connected to 8 of Fire in the Herbcrafter Tarot. And here for ginger, you should choose a deck that fires your inspiration or helps you when fire comes at you. So I chose a deck called Tarot of Atara. I think that Frida Kahlo's energy is very ginger-like, if that makes sense. It definitely helps me bring that fire within me out. It also helps me get in the flow of life because so much is happening on every single picture I feel painting. It's a very dynamic deck, and 8 of Fire is all about that, isn't it? And yeah, it's just amazing for the inspiration because Frida is so inspirational and she was so creative, and I think it's a huge inspiration to a lot of artists to this day. I feel when a lot is happening, this deck can kind of bring attention to what I need to pay attention to, what I need to prioritize, you know. The timing of things is very important with 8 of Fire as well. So being in that moment and knowing when to step in or when to step out of certain situations, and this deck helps me with that very, very well. So yes, this deck is the deck that I connected to the energy of ginger. The next plant that I chose is Valerian. And Valerian in the Herbcrafter Tarot is connected to the 8 of Water. As you can see here, it's a very peaceful, calm scene. It feels like it's a scene before bed. So here you should choose a deck that you love using before sleep, before bedtime, or if you want to enter a safe space. For me, the deck that holds that energy is Shadowscapes Tarot. This is such a dreamy deck, in my opinion. It definitely brings you to that space. Like even the suit of swords, that is the most challenging of all suits in the opinion of many tarot readers, is something that calms you down, at least in my opinion. I feel this deck is very soothing, or it invites you into a different world, into this dream space. It helps you leave behind what you don't need and enter into dream space and see what is possible and what does matter and where you should focus your attention, where you should wander to. It definitely helps me wander into very dreamlike spaces, and I feel every time I use this deck before bed, it just triggers that imagination within me, and my dreams are then very safe. And I say this when I pull the tower, but yeah, my dreams are very safe and calm and flowy and yeah, just nice, lovely, you know, harmonious, let's say. It triggers my mind to come to this stillness, to this harmonious place where then I can be calm and deal with whatever I have to deal with emotionally. Does that make sense? So yes, this was my Valerian energy deck. The next plant that I thought about is turmeric. And we have another 8 here, and this time it is 8 of earth, which is 8 of pentacles. And you should choose a deck here that keeps your tarot practice going, that motivates you, that is actually your horsework deck. Is a deck that you can pull out at any time, and it's gonna keep you going. It's gonna give you the messages you need, and it's gonna motivate you to pull it out again and again and master your craft, your tarot practice. And for me, this is a deck that is quite new to my tarot family, but I just pull it out all the time, and that is the Spectral World Tarot. This deck is just on another level. It's really hard to put it in words. Like 2 of Swords, yeah. It is hard to decide how to describe it, because I feel like I can't describe it with language, you know. You just need to feel it out, and the messages that come through this deck are very direct and short and on point, and you know, I can use it so quickly. Like I can pull it out and it's not going to take me 5 days to understand what the meanings are. It's just very clean, and it tells me what I'm asking about with no BS. The messages are just super clear, and I can gather those messages very intuitively. I don't have to think when I use this deck. I don't have to think, oh, what does Page of Cups mean? Oh, what does this mean? No, it's just, I don't know. But you do need to have a still mind in order to get the messages through. Which, you know, before my tarot practice, I would do that anyway. So yeah, this deck I pull out all the time, and it helps me keep going, keep on returning, keep on practicing. It's just absolutely incredible. It exceeded my expectations in all possible ways. Because when I looked at it, I just thought, oh, there's so many colors and every card has all the colors, and that's going to be confusing. But it's so not confusing. Like when you put different cards together, let me show you, just randomly. I'm going to put 4 cards here, and you will see what I mean, how different they all are. Yeah, it's just amazing. So this has been my workhorse deck lately that really keeps me sharp in my practice, let's say. A perfect turmeric type of energy deck for me. The next plant that I thought of is Cacao. Cacao in the Herbcrafter tarot is connected to the Hierophant card. So for this deck, you should choose one that helps you connect to the divine. And for me, this deck is the Margarete Peterson tarot. Like I said in the description for this deck, it helps me connect to the divine. I feel like I'm talking to the universe, like I'm talking to God with this deck. It is that it feels like the Hierophant, you know, it feels like I am me and this deck is the medium that connects me to the all that there is. You can call it God, universe, whatever you feel like calling it. Yeah, it's just magic. It's absolutely incredible. It's again one of those decks that you can use intuitively very well, but it's also a deck that you can sit with and the God is going to communicate the messages through. You need to connect. You need to open your crown chakra in order for these messages to come through. You need to trust that the messages are going to come through. Like you need to trust the Hierophant that he's going to teach you, that he's going to show you the ways that you want to be taught, that he's going to show you, share with you the knowledge that you want to receive. The same way this deck works for me. So this is the Margarete Peterson Tarot, and I connected to the energy of Cacao. The next plant that I thought of is Cannabis, and Cannabis in the Herbcrafter Tarot stands for justice. And here you should choose a deck that offers you an honest truth. As we know, justice is about truth from both sides. And to me, that deck that tells the truth, that tells what is just, is the Vision Quest Tarot. Yeah, this deck, it feels like justice to me. It will tell you the things that you might not want to hear. It will tell you what you need to deal with in order to achieve that balance in your life. It is going to show you the other side of the story that you might not have been aware of, but you should have been, in order to restore that peace or, that balanced state of mind. And it's just absolutely incredible. So yeah, it holds that energy of the Justice card perfectly here. It holds the Cannabis's energy amazingly. I also connect personally Cannabis to the medicine of Cannabis, allowing you to relax and to get into that state of mind where you can see things more clearly or from a more wholehearted perspective. And I feel this deck delivers that side as well. So yeah, 100% a perfect deck for the Cannabis. The next plant that I thought about is the Eucalyptus. And the Eucalyptus is connected to 7 of air in the Herbcrafter Tarot, and it's all about distilling information. So you should choose a deck here that helps you distill the information and make reasonable decisions or choices in your life. And for this energy, I chose the Animal Totem Tarot. This is the deck that it might not appear when you see it at first, but it always delivers super duper clear messages. The way that the guidebook is written is just direct. I really enjoy working with this deck. Every time that I want to hear the honest truth, that I want guidance that's going to help me go into the correct direction, that is going to help me see things very clearly and know what is and know what it's not, and just be very honest about it. That's going to literally help me distill information, that is going to help me lift the fog in my mind even, is definitely this deck. So if you study the energy of the animals, the energy of the spirit animals even, this deck is a really great way to learn more about the essences of them. I recently learned that my spirit animal is the fox, and it makes a lot of sense because it is the magician. It is someone who people see as a trickster, someone who is very smart and knows how to mold things in their life to achieve the goal that they want. They're also very adaptable really quickly, the foxes. It's so interesting. Like when I learned that and I researched the fox a little bit more, and then I saw that in this deck it is the magician, it made so much sense. But yeah, anyways, the point here is that this deck really helps me distill information, basically, around me, and that it's in my head. So yeah, this is the Animal Totem Tarot, the energy of the Eucalyptus. The next plant or a tree that I chose here is the birch tree. And the birch tree in the Herbcrafter tarot is connected to 7 of water. For the energy of the birch, you should choose a deck that you use to understand and discern your emotions. So it's all about understanding and discerning your emotions. It's a deck that helps you dive deep into yourself and deal with things that you need to deal with in order to move on to the next stage. The 7 of water is often portrayed as having too many choices, but I personally read it as finding distractions in your environment in order to not deal with what you actually need to deal with emotionally. So for the energy of this card, I chose the deck called the Witch's Wisdom Tarot. This is 100% the deck that is going to help you do that. It's going to help you look into yourself. It's going to help you make those connections with your depths and the earth and what is really going on within you. It is a very deep, emotional, in my opinion, deck that is also very grounding, but there's something very heartfelt in this deck. I feel it brings a lot of emotions out of one when it is used properly, I'm gonna say. I would use this deck when I feel a bit confused about what I'm feeling. So I would sit with it. I would pull only a card or two and try to understand what is the meaning of the card, how that the meaning can be reflected within me or in connection to my feelings. So yeah, this is the Witch's Wisdom Tarot. An absolutely gorgeous deck. And I told you in one of the previous videos that I didn't want to use it much because of the cardstock, but let me just show you real quick that it actually is shuffleable if you put it into 2 piles and then again 2 piles. So look at this. How beautiful is that? It shuffles like a dream, but only in smaller piles. So if you are not using it because of the cardstock is too stiff, then I really advise you to do that because it changed the game for me. I mean, now it's the deck that I use very often, especially compared to before. So this is the Witch's Wisdom Tarot, and I connect it to the energy of the birch tree. The next plant that I chose is also a tree, and it is the oak tree, and it's connected to 7 of earth. Here you should choose a deck that makes you slow down, that helps you reassess and plan for generations to come. And the deck that I chose for the energy of the oak tree, by the way, oak grows really, really slowly, so that's why the energy of slowing down and reassessing and planning for generations to come, because when you plant one acorn, the tree grows really slowly and it lasts for generations. There are very old trees that last very long. So anyway, the deck that I chose for this is the Wheel of Change Tarot. It literally holds that energy, the oak tree energy, wise one energy. You know, the oak trees are that hold that wisdom, don't they, of the generations. They've been watching generation and generation, and they can pass that knowledge down. It makes me slow down. It makes me look into the depths of myself. It helps me stop and look at what I have been doing and then try to plan how I can do the things differently, that they will work for the highest good of everyone involved, I'm gonna say. Here's the 7 of discs here, which is the 7 of earth. And it is a very different deck as well, I'm gonna say. And because it is different, you know, because it has a little bit of different meanings in comparison to the Rider-Waite-Smith meanings, because of that, it makes me stop and really pay attention to details and, learn from those details and how can I approach things differently. So it's a perfect deck for that. Honestly, it really is. And I really suggest you this deck if you want to connect to the collective consciousness, I'm gonna say, of all beings, of people, of plants, of animals. to the history of the earth itself, to the wheel of the year as well. This deck is closely following the wheel of the year and the pagan celebrations, I'm gonna say, or the pagan important moments in a year. So yeah, sorry, I am going on and on about this deck because it's very, very, very special. So yeah, let's continue. The next plant that I chose is Cattail, and Cattail is connected to the energy of the 6 of air. And it is all about finding clarity, letting go of that what doesn't serve us anymore in order to move on. So the deck that helps me achieve that is the Forest of Enchantment Tarot. This deck always helps me find that clarity. It helps me move on, literally. It helps me recognize things that don't serve me anymore and make that decision to move on into the brighter future. It also helps me recognize parts of myself that are shadowy or things that I need to look at in order to move on. To me, it is kind of shadow work type of deck, although not completely, but I feel I would use this deck, and even though my intention is not to see my shadow or things that I need to deal with, it's somehow most likely something is going to always come up in every reading that I will have to look at in order to then move on. This is the Forest of Enchantment Tarot. It is absolutely stunning as well, isn't it? Oh gosh, so beautiful. So beautiful. I could just look at these pictures whole day long. This was the deck that I connect to the energy of the Cattail. The next plant that I chose is Goldenseal. The energy of this plant is helping you move through grief, helping you recover, helping you feel the grief, feel the pain and sadness, and then move from that grief. So basically you should choose a deck that you use for grieving moments. And for me, the deck that I use for that is the Herbcrafter Tarot. Basically the deck that inspired this new tag. And yes, this deck is just like a warm hug. It is the best deck for moments like that. Moments of really deep sadness when you are dealing with things that no longer are and no longer can be, but it holds your hand to move through those moments. Or if you are unlucky, they're more than just moments, but yeah, this deck really helped me to move through certain things in life that were really, really painful. The messages in this deck are very, I'm not gonna say uplifting, but just encouraging, that's the word. The whole deck comes from the heart, I feel. And when you're grieving, your heart is grieving. And that's why this deck is just so appropriate for those stages in our life when we're grieving. Because it helps you feel better, it helps you heal, it helps you move on from that pain. It is absolutely incredible, and I talk about this deck all the time on my channel, so let's just move on. The next plant that I chose is the White Sage. The energy of this plant in the Herbcrafter Tarot is all about doing the right thing and fighting for the marginalized ones, either those being the people or the plants or the animals. It is the deck, or you should choose the deck that keeps you in check. And I have chosen the New Era Elements Tarot because this deck really does that so perfectly. It makes you look into the mirror and keeps you in check. Are you doing the right thing? Are you doing what is morally correct or right? If literally this is a perfect deck for that energy of the White Sage. If you're doing something, is it gonna benefit everyone involved? Why are you doing certain things, you know? Are you fighting just to fight or just to win, let's say? Are you considering others? Are you being considering of the nature of all the beings on this planet? It is absolutely wow. Yeah, this deck does all these things, all the messages that the White Sage holds in the Herbcrafter Tarot. This deck brings in or forward perfectly. It is also a very honest deck, and I feel in order to move through Five of Air, you need to be honest with yourself, and you need to look the truth in the eyes, or yourself in the eyes. You know, so yeah, this deck is definitely perfect for that. You see, literally what this guy is doing is looking into his own reflection. The next plant that I chose is the elder, or you could also say the elder flower. The energy of Four of Fire in the Herbcrafters is all about magic and creating magical rituals and connecting with beings from liminal spaces. So the deck that holds that energy for me is the Wildwood Tarot. Every time I work with the Wildwood Tarot, I feel that I am connected to otherworldly beings, literally. That I enter that magical space, that I'm participating in a ritual just by using these cards. It really helps me connect, like the seer here. It helps me connect to otherworldly beings, to the beings of the liminal spaces. I think it's absolutely amazing to do that. Because I see, or I read Four of Fire as that. I don't read it much as celebration. I read it more as being spiritually strong and stable, creating those spiritual boundaries, or knowing your spiritual boundaries, and then also stepping through those spiritual boundaries when it's time to grow, when it's time to move on. Some people would probably disagree with the way I read this card, but that's how I read it. And this deck holds that energy of Four of Fire, or of the elderflower in this case, perfectly. Because elderflower in the Herbcrafters Tarot is described as a medicine that helps you enter that space where you can move between the veil of the ones that came before us, of the liminal beings, and then coming through the veil on this side. And it's a very, very interesting card, a very interesting energy there. Something that I would never thought of when I was drinking, I don't know, elderflower juice, you know. This is the Wildwood Tarot, and I connect it to the elderflower or elder plant. The next plant is mint, one of my favorite herbs of all time. I love mint. So mint in the Herbcrafters Tarot is associated with 4 of water. For the energy of mint, you should choose a deck that is refreshing, or a deck that refreshes your spirit. Okay, so for me, this is the Unfolding Path Tarot. Why I chose this deck as a deck that brings refreshment to me is because it is a Rider-Waite-Smith based deck, but it is done in a very refreshing way. The way it uses the color to me is very refreshing. There is a big importance on color here, and the way even the strokes of the color are painted on the white background. And I just find it very refreshing. I don't know, every time I use it, I'm like, that felt like a fresh glass of mint water. You know, it feels like it moves me from that stagnant maybe place of, you know, reading Rider-Waite-Smith. I feel it's very easy to get into the habit of reading specific cards always the same when it comes to Rider-Waite-Smith. And there's nothing wrong with that, don't get me wrong. But I personally don't like being in that space of not stagnation, like feeling stuck or even bored, you know, because it's always the same. And I feel because this deck is technically a Rider-Waite-Smith, not really clone, but really, really deeply influenced by the Rider-Waite-Smith, it brings something new to the reading. It brings something refreshing to it. And it's also refreshing to see this much diversity in a deck, I'm not gonna lie. It is super duper refreshing. Diversity in all means, in age, in abilities, in cultures, in skin tones, in hairstyles, in sexual orientation, in gender identity, in everything, in artistic expression. It's amazing. It is so good. And yeah, refreshing, like I said. So this was my mint energy deck. The next plant that I chose is Echinacea. Echinacea is, in the Herbcrafter tarot, is represented in the 3 of air or 3 of swords. You should choose a deck here that helps you heal when going through rough times. So something that is not easy to go through, but when you do go through, you come through on the other side stronger, you grow mentally. For me, the deck that represents that is the Tarot of the Witch's Garden. So whenever I will go through a time that is hard mentally, that is maybe challenging me, that is challenging my perspectives on life, this deck helps me go through that. It is a deck that definitely points out why I'm going through certain rough moments, or things that are uncomfortable even, I'm gonna say, or things that I know I have to go through in order to grow, let's say. Let's be honest, we grow the most when we go through things that are uncomfortable, right? So yes, this deck is definitely the one that shines light on why I'm going through certain things and how am I going to get on the other side feeling stronger, more competent, perhaps mentally stronger. Is a deck that holds my hand during those times. When you go through rough times or hard times, looking at the deck that is so aesthetically beautiful and calming is also a really good way to go, in my opinion, to work through those issues. Even though it is a Rider-Waite-Smith deck, it does bring more softness to it, I'm gonna say. And when you're going through rough times, softness is a good friend, I would say. Because soft and rough are the opposites, right? I think I'm just babbling now. But yeah, this is a deck that I chose for the Echinacea energy. We have 2 more plants to go, and one of them is the rose. I couldn't have not chosen a rose because I love roses. And in the Herbcrafter tarot, the rose is connected to the energy of the Empress. And for the rose, you should choose a deck that you use for readings oriented around love and beauty, because the Empress expresses those energies, right? So for me, the deck that I use for love-oriented readings is the Modern Love Tarot. This deck is just a perfect deck to read for anything related to love. It could be friendships, it could be relationship love, it could be relationships within the working place, or relationships within family. It is a very, very good deck for that. One can also be very creative with the meanings of the card. And we know that the Empress, the energy of Empress, of the energy of the rose, is also about creativity and creation and growth. And I feel this deck's energy goes with that very beautifully. I would say I even exclusively use this deck for love readings and for the readings of any type of relationships, because it is just so well done. And not only the art, but also the guidebook is incredible. Shout out for Ethany for creating such amazing guidebooks. They're very direct and very straight to the point. They cut through all the BS, just like these pictures. They tell you directly. The messages are very obvious, very strong and powerful, just like the Empress. She's very strong because she's a partner of an emperor. The Modern Love Tarot holds the energy of the rose for me, because rose has thorns as well. It's not just pretty and soft, it has thorns, and I feel this deck shows both sides of that energy of the rose very well. And the last but not least plant that I chose here is the Dandelion. And Dandelion is connected to the energy of the Fool. So you should choose a deck here that makes you feel like anything is possible, that expresses that childlike enthusiasm. And I chose Tarot of the Owls here. And you will see why. I feel that this deck holds that childlike and enthusiastic, optimistic energy. There it is. I just feel it is a very fun, not too serious type of deck, although you can get very deep readings with this deck. I'm not saying that, but it just has that innocent, childlike approach to the meanings of the card. It is very bright, you know. Children love bright colors, right? So I connect the energy of the dandelion to optimism, to, you know, very strong colors, because dandelion is a very bright yellow, isn't it? So this deck holds that energy for me beautifully. Look at this Four of Swords. Isn't it just gorgeous? I feel this deck doesn't take itself too seriously as well. It is so beautiful and optimistic. Even with the dark cards though, there is something like this one. There is something, I don't know, something that uplifts you when you read with it. At least for me it works this way. Very uplifting deck, that's what I'm gonna say. And it does make me feel like anything is possible, that anything happens for a reason, and that everything is going to be okay, you know? It makes me look onto the world through the eyes of a child. And this is probably my favorite card of the deck, although I have so many, because there are so many creative ways they portrayed the owls that shows the messages of the Rider-Waite-Smith beautifully. This was my last deck that I related to the dandelion energy. Please write in the comments below which decks you connect to the energies of the plants that I chosen. If you're doing a VR to this video, please feel free to change the meanings of the plants if you read them differently, or to even add different plants into it if you feel a very special connection to a certain plant. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you like content that I create. And I hope I will see you again soon. Bye bye.